I'm Hannah.
And I'm Natalie. On today's episode, we are still at marathon weekend. Winter is upon us, as many of us just experienced running aforementioned marathon weekend. We're chatting about how to stay safe and warm while continuing your training this winter. We also chat Disneyland half marathon weekend news that came out in the last couple of weeks. So, lace up your shoes and step into the magic with us.
Another email from the feed.
Oh, beautiful.
And my order that I sent to my mom for my 10K costume is out for delivery. So it's, it's going to Tennessee instead of Georgia. Sad. It's okay.
You can twin.
Yeah. My mom could wear it. No, probably not. But I'll have to return that one. I shipped another one to Disney. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. A frequent shipper of things to Disney. They handle stuff pretty well there. So, we may or may not have just completed the Dopey Challenge. IDK. Yes, we did. But
we're manifesting. Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. We're coming at you from the past, if that's not abundantly clear.
Yeah, if you want to check if it really happened, you can look up our runner tracking.
True. I'm under my maiden name. So... Yeah, so that's where we're all at. So happy marathon weekend from me and mine to you and yours.
Yes, we hope you had a great time.
Yes. And are commuting home, getting ready to commute home, have already gotten home, safe and sound, and are warming up in your respective home.
Mm-hmm. We won't be able to report on yet whether or not I achieved my goal of completing the Dopey Challenge injury-free, but we're manifesting. So hopefully that's how that went. If not, you'll find out next week.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we've really had a little catch up where I guess at the beginning of last week's episode, we did talk a little bit about some stuff and whatnot. So we're crawling to the start of Dopey back in the past. So
yeah, we're fully unhinged. If you listen to last week's episode, you know that because we were fully unhinged. There were no hinges then either. Every little niggle feels like the end of the world. Every sneeze or cough has me paranoid, and I'm afraid to go out in public. So hopefully this was one of those Disney trips where I come home healthy. It's like a 50-50 right now of whether or not I come home healthy. So let's see how the tally turns out.
Yes, it'll be lots of hand washing before meals, whatnot. In keeping with tradition with my last Dopey Challenge, 3 days before I left, I had to call State Farm to come help me with my car. I could have phrased that better. And with roadside assistance is what I called.
You mean you weren't part of a State Farm commercial?
Well, no, I just didn't want it to be yeah, you got in an accident. No, I am fine. Or whatever. Could have phrased that better. Jake from State Farm did not become my BFFL, but I last time it was my battery that had to get jumped, and then I had on and off battery things, and I got the battery tested, and I decided I was done with that, and I was done with that back and forth with will it start, will it not? The will they, won't they is not as cute when it's you and your car battery. And that time I got it replaced. So again, in keeping with tradition, this time it was a tire. So I'm getting, my car is getting a beautiful Christmas present, belated, of all brand new tires. But yeah, no, keeps in tradition. So COVID and something with my car. So it means it's going to be a successful weekend, and it has been a successful weekend by the time you hear this. So is what it is. We're just Ubering to the airport now, so good times. About all right,
let's move into our race day countdown. We are one race less than we were last week because we've already finished it. Oh my goodness. But we've got 16 days until Disneyland Half Marathon 2025, 37 days until Princess Weekend 2025. Wow, it's creeping up fast.
Yeah.
79 days until Springtime Surprise Weekend 2025, and 233 days until the Disneyland Halloween Half Marathon 2025. This is your reminder that your shirt deadline is coming up pretty quickly, February 12th, 2025. So if you just, rushed, panicked, picked whatever size, and while you were getting it done, that's fine, but go fix it. And if you have proof of time, you've got until April 1st, 2025. And I will reiterate, this is not an April Fool's joke. It's serious. So put your proof of time in.
Speaking of Disneyland, that's a jump into our news. Disneyland Half Marathon weekend. We got the event guide over the holidays, and we figured that this would probably be a better time to chit chat about that. And we'll link the event guide in the show notes. I'd say the event guides for Disneyland are just a little bit different than Walt Disney World in that they have it's a smaller event overall, so they get runners out a little faster, where they say that they expect, for example, for the half marathon, for everyone to be out by 5:45, so that's start line close. And I'd say one of the bigger things is that your virtual queue on day one for Run Disney merchandise will open at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So not 8:30, the way it is on the East Coast, at 7 a.m. You'll do that in your Disneyland app, similar to your other virtual queues, and it works similarly to Walt Disney World, where it'll pop up a couple days before, day or so before, for you to get into the app. I'd say for the 5K and for the 10K, we don't have too many deviations in the course from the last couple of races. The 5K starts near the castle, ends on Pixar Pier. It's wonderful. I couldn't say enough good things about it. It's one of the best races I've ever done. The 10K is also primarily park-based. You'll go through both Disneyland and California Adventure. You do end in the parking lot. But the biggest change was that, there's this whole will they, won't they with Angel Stadium. Will we go in? Will we not? And they completely eliminated that because we are not even going anywhere near. And I say we, but I mean the royal we, which doesn't include me because I will not be there. But there's a pretty big deviation in the course where you go through the parks for the first 4 miles, and then you go south of Disneyland proper, and for the road portion of the race. And it's like this big loop around, kind of like a nice square shape. You go all the way down to Garden Grove Boulevard, and you continue to loop up. As you can tell, I'm not entirely super familiar with the Anaheim area besides where Disneyland is. My hotels I stay off of Harbor Boulevard, the In-N-Out, Angel Stadium, and the Duck Stadium. So Angel Stadium and the Duck Stadium are to the east of the Disneyland Resort. So that's the way the courses have gone in the past. So y'all are going south this time. Seems like everything's pretty well laid out with, hydration stops. They have medical pretty evenly. It's they're a very satisfying map to look at. But I'm very curious to hear some of the feedback on this course, how it differs from the courses of the past, and different cool things to see and do. But yeah, we'll have to get some feedback from you guys. But yeah, feel free to let us know what the vibe is for it.
If you run this weekend and you want to be on the podcast and let us know about it, there is a new form linked in our Instagram that you can sign up and let us know that you want to tell us about your experience. So hit us up.
Yes, please do the hitting up. There's also a coast to coast tab on here on the event guide, which just specifies what you need to do to qualify for a coast to coast medal. And ooh, this is a really high def picture of this medal. Ooh, oh, I didn't notice the gold rimming on the medal last time I looked at it. Ooh, it's pretty. Dang it. I can't. I can't. No, we don't. We don't do that. I know I can't do it, but it specifies that what you need to do to qualify for the event, enjoy the kids' races, enjoy all kinds of things related to another wonderful Run Disney Expo. It's funny because it feels like whiplash to already be thinking and talking about another race event while we're recording. We haven't yet been to Marathon Weekend yet, but like we would have just been. But also, when I think about that a little harder, I remember that I literally went from Marathon Weekend to Disneyland last year. So, like, in terms of whiplash, the whip was lashing.
I could not imagine packing for that.
It was planned with laundry in mind.
That makes sense.
It was hard. It was hard though because I had at best a 10-day out forecast when I left, and I didn't do Dopey to Dumbo. I did Goofy to Dumbo. So I had a couple extra days. But trying to just guesstimate what was going to happen in Anaheim, and also that's different because it's less of a humid cold. It's just kind of a straight cold. It was nice, but it was like, okay, like layers and hope for the best was the strategy, the only thing that we could strategize with that. And yeah, it was a hard pack for sure. Definitely had a little baggie of Tide, powdered Tide. So that had like 3 labels on it and like triple bag that said, this is Tide, this is Tide, this is Tide. So I hope that I didn't get my luggage was not checked, and I made sure it was nicely accessible in a bag, like on top. So like when it flagged as white powder in a checked bag, it was okay. Yeah, this is just Tide. Yeah. It was a hard pack for sure. So, thoughts and prayers if you haven't thought about your Disneyland costumes yet, and you are at Marathon Weekend. I I feel like the time crunch just even thinking about Princess, hence the meme like a week and a half ago. And here we are. Last thing of news is that we got the merch preview on Friday the 3rd for the Disneyland Half Marathon Weekend. A lot of stuff looked cute. I really liked the bright colors. Run Disney's really loving their blues this season, it seems like, for the merch. I'll be curious if that keeps with Princess. And I guess it didn't with Disneyland because that was all Halloween spooks. But they did have kind of the dark purple blue with, I know, that cool Spirit jersey and stuff. So they're really loving their Pantone colors of blue for all the merch. But I liked a lot of what I saw. Obviously, I'm not going to be there to get it, but looked pretty cute. And again, there's always stuff that like flies off the shelves that we didn't see in the preview and is wonderful.
I thought it was pretty cute too.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed, I thought, especially because the themes are fine. It's not my favorite artwork I've ever seen, and I'm still really confused why Safari Mickey is there. And I was actually pretty impressed by what I saw. So happy shopping in a couple of weeks. Just a couple of weeks. Actually, just a little over 2.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Which is a couple. Good job.
Yay! I can do math. Speaking of dates and such, I'll talk about our Disney fun fact. On this day in Disney history, which is the 14th, the Disney Wonder docked in Costa Rica, which was the very first Disney cruise ship to dock in Costa Rica. And it was on a Panama Canal cruise that ended in Los Angeles. And that's where the staging was, where the Wonder was for a couple of years. Another interesting note is that FastPass Plus debuted in 2014 at the Magic Kingdom in Florida on the 14th of January, which it's still crazy for me remembering the rollout of FastPass Plus versus paper FastPass, or like, oh, it's on your phone, you book it in advance, and now we've had a couple of changes with that. Just kind of funny to think back to that. And that it's only been 11 years, but also simultaneously it would like just happened.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. My mom, so my parents are joining us for a marathon weekend to cheer everyone on. And when I was helping them set up their My Disney Experience app and all of that jazz, my mom was asking me like whether or not Fast Pass was still a thing, like how she was going to get her Fast Pass. And I was like, well,
It's complicated.
so yeah.
Just a little bit.
Mhm. All right. Ready to jump into our main topic?
Yes. To preface this, I want to say that before we even had a month out on the marathon weekend forecast is when we planned this. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in terms of our main topic,
This was
it was
planned a
just,
long time ago.
yes. So, did we do this? Maybe. Did we not? Also, maybe. I don't know. But now is as good a time as ever to talk about how to run when it's cold out.
Either you already know this and we're just fine for marathon weekend, or this is your crash course because you were like, oh gosh, that didn't go well.
Or you were at home because you're running like
That too.
princess and you're like, oh my god, what did they do down there? What happened? What do you mean it's going to be cold in Florida? Because it is hard to take a step back, especially if you've done, I mean, we've always been big proponents of check your forecast, check your forecast, check your forecast, but sometimes it is kind of hard to separate yourself from the idea of like, oh, most times I've done princess, it's been warm. So like last year for me was a little bit of a departure in that it was cold, but then my first princess was also cold. So you always have to check, especially in these unpredictable months.
Mm-hmm.
But Florida cold hits different if you're from the north. The North remembers. But yeah, you don't remember that kind of cold because it's a different type of cold. But
Humidity does strange things to your body. Basically, like we have the humidity all the time. When it's hot, if I think they say, I probably should have done a little research before we talked about this, but roughly like the 60s is sort of like the break even point where above 60s, if you have humidity, it starts to increase the how hot it feels, and when you're below that, that's when you start to it makes it feel colder than it actually is. Plus wind, like we all know wind makes things worse. So if you're used to like living somewhere that doesn't experience a lot of humidity, you're probably like getting more of like a true feel of what the temperature is. But once you have humidity, man, does it make a difference. um it yeah, it just chills you in a different way, just like it really like when you're hot and you can't cool off because the humidity prevents you from like really doing that. It's kind of the same way with the cold. It really is hard to like get and stay warm when it's super humid. So, yeah.
indeed.
What an unscientific chat that was.
It was more science than I was going to provide to it. So, when you're dressing for winter running, and I guess a lot of you probably have already like, okay, like I've been running a bit
Mhm.
already. But I mean, I'd say up until the point of early January 2025, at least where I am in Nebraska, has been a relatively mild winter. We've had a
Mhm.
couple pretty darn cold days. We've had, well, we missed Snowmageddon the first weekend of January. I can still see all the grass. I can see maybe the light dusting of snow. So we missed the Snowmageddon that like absolutely ransacked like Kansas City and like the middle part of mid America. We were
Mhm.
good. They put up the Omaha Dome. Domaha has continued. But anyway, we've had a relatively mild winter so far. And so I feel like it's like my like peace offering to whoever controls the weather, or just like please let me get through dopey. But
Mhm.
we're kind of cresting into that yucky zone of cold. But anyway, all that to
I
say
mean,
is
if
that
you
you
think about it, winter, like the season agriculturally whatever, based on the solar system if we're going to go more sciency, um winter doesn't actually start until November like 20 something, right?
Or it's December.
December
December. It's
20 something.
or the winter equinox is the 21st.
There you go. So like really, we're not that late to the game.
That's true. Oh yeah, that is true. And again, it didn't really get that bad up here until
Mm-hmm.
recently.
And it
So
lasts through
March.
March. So you still got, we're not even halfway there.
Yeah, we're barely into it. um so you want to make sure that you're dressing appropriately for winter running. Um you want to select if you're like running really hard,
Mm-hmm.
select your clothing as if you're running in weather that's 10 degrees warmer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you should know yourself. Like I know that I run hot in general. So I am sometimes that loon like in shorts when it's like 47
Mm-hmm.
outside to run. So I know that I just run hot though, and that's just pleasant for me, or like shorts and a long sleeve or whatnot. If it's windy, as the wind master over here, you want to dress as if it's 5 to 10 degrees colder, accounting for the wind chill.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you also kind of protect your skin to the point that you can. Gloves, hats, whatnot. Windburn is real and it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I will add that it is also the same if it rains in the winter. So if it's like cold but not freezing, right? So it doesn't snow. But if there's going to be precipitation of any kind, you're also going to want to dress 5 to 10 degrees colder than the actual temperature.
Indeed. So you want to layers are going to be your friend for sure. So base layer, you want to be moisture wicking, get that away from you. Something that insulates you about mid layer, and then your outer layer to kind of wind and water resist, so
Mm-hmm.
nothing gets in. And then we get that moisture in where it's not supposed to be. I'd say that's something that I'm going to go back to that like disastrous 20 miler of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
A couple, but you want to be cautious with your layering and that you don't go too heavy, because that was the mistake I made where I went a little too heavy when I warmed up. Then I sweat through my clothes and I had to
Mm-hmm.
change because then I got cold. So it's a really delicate balancing act, not unfortunately, but you just have to be aware of that aspect of things. So
Mm-hmm.
light layers, but more of them versus like I had a little bit heavier of a sweatshirt on over my long sleeve, and then that got not good great to quickly
Mm-hmm.
for me.
So speaking of these like thin layers, lots of layers, you're probably thinking, well, but like, what do I do? Like, for what temperatures? And I really love to reference Tina Murr. I really hope I'm saying her last name right. Probably not. I'm not good at names. Um, but she has a blog post that she updates every single year. She's a much more qualified runner than I am. And she sort of has a guide, and it has never steered me wrong. So if you take into consideration the things we said about like either going up or down on the scale, you should be able to hit pretty well. So if we're talking base temperature without any of those other special circumstances, at 50 degrees, she recommends a thin long sleeve that's moisture wicking and still in shorts at this point, as well as moisture wicking socks, which you should be wearing all year long, no matter what.
True.
And then if you happen to like a headband, then you can do that to keep your hair out of your face, but it doesn't need to, we're not talking like ear cover headband or anything. Then at 45 degrees, she recommends a slightly thicker long sleeve t-shirt, again still moisture wicking. And this is when she says to move into, either depending on how hot or cold you run, you could move into longer shorts. So if you wear shorter shorts and you want to go like full 10-inch down to the knee, or capris if you have like capri running tights. Again, moisture wicking socks. And this is when she adds in a hat, but not like a beanie, like a normal hat. Holds in a little bit of heat, but not too much heat. Then when we go down to 40 degrees, you've got, this is the medium thickness long sleeve with either a windproof like vest to keep your core, or another long sleeve so you can like double up. But we're not moving into like full on jacket or anything yet in this territory. Again, you can be wearing like tights, capris, leggings, This is still up to you territory. And this is also where she notes that men who I guess maybe tend to run warmer than women, this might be starting to get into the personal preference territory of whether you want to switch to pants as a man. This is also when she starts to recommend adding things like a headband that might keep your ears warm. So these are the thicker ones, and a thin pair of windproof, waterproof gloves. This is for sure where I have to put on gloves. Sometimes I put them on a little bit earlier and then I just shove them into my pockets after I do my warm up. But my fingers and like my nose, tips of my nose and my ears, there's not much you can do about the nose, but they get cold really fast. Then we get down to 35 degrees, which I don't think, I mean, if you live in the Midwest, like eventually we'll get way, way, way too low where you might not even be able to run outside. But 35 degrees, we're talking very thick, long sleeve. And again, either a moisture wicking layer or a second layer long sleeve. This is where you're for sure in tights, pants at this point. And again, a headband, not too thick, and gloves. So you're basically just adding more base layers. So we kept the vest from the last layer, but now you've either got like a super thick long sleeve or a long sleeve and maybe a quarter zip or 2 long sleeves, just adding a little bit more. It's all about keeping your core warm, guys. And then we've got 30 degrees, definitely 2 long sleeve layers, 1 thin and 1 thick. So we're even thicker than before. Again, a vest may be good. We're in thicker running tights, not just like standard. This is probably when you're going to venture into like winter ones that are like fleece, or they've got the, some of them have that reflective stuff, different materials that help retain heat better. This is you're going to go for like a thick pair of gloves or mittens at this point, and this is when you're going to venture possibly into hat territory, like beanie territory, if you want to keep your whole head warm and not just your ears. And then we get down to 25 degrees. Again, I probably should have been saying the Celsius the whole time for other people, but we're not redoing this, so congrats. You can do the math. 25, you're definitely doing a thick, high rise long sleeve. So like you want something that's like not a scoop neck, like something that's going to be higher up on your neck. You could do like a fleece lined long sleeve at this point. And this is when you're going to add like water resistant windproof jacket or probably, and for me, another long sleeve. So you're going to have like your thin base layer, a thick like fleece lined potentially layer, and then a windproof jacket as well. Again, thick running tights. For me, this is when I start thinking about more than one pair because I don't really own a lot of winter. It doesn't get that cold here in Georgia, guys. If it does, I'm not going out. Mittens, hat, moisture wicking socks. This is when you're gonna definitely, like, if you're a millennial who is all about the no-show, like short ankle socks, I'm really personally like the ones with the tab in the back because I know that my back of my ankle's not gonna rub on my shoe. But this is when you just embrace your inner Gen Z and your Gen Alpha or whatever, and wear the like crew height, whatever it is, whatever they're called when they come up like halfway up your shin, wear those. Cover your ankles.
This brought me back to knee highs of my
you
youth
could.
in Catholic school.
Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to like tights and then like a whole like soccer length. For me, that's like knee high and soccer socks are basically the same thing, even though soccer is even longer than that because you got to fold it over your shin guard sometimes. But
that just brought back a memory.
yeah, that could be an interesting layering technique. If you're getting below 20 degrees, this is the end of her scale. Then it's 2 long sleeves, depending on how much under 20 degrees. She says at least one of them needs to be the like really thick long sleeve, for sure a wind resistant jacket. This is where she says 2 pairs of tights. I run cold, so I do it sooner. I did live in the Midwest once upon a time. This is when you're going to add in a neck gaiter to make sure that you've got that neck completely covered, and it really helps with the nose. This is like the one scenario where there's an option for your nose. You can pull it up and like cover your mouth. Sometimes the air is so cold that it kind of hurts to breathe in. This helps with that. And then here she recommends 2 pairs of gloves, so maybe like your thin pair and then like mittens on top, and a thicker hat, potentially with fleece inside. If it gets too much colder than that, like, you're gonna have to start making your own call on that. I don't know. I think for me, that would be where I'm inside for sure. So, yeah, there's your rough guide for temperatures. I'll put a link to the blog post because she also has pictures of her dressed in all the different options for each temperature range. And she also has links to some of her favorite products that you can go look at. So, yeah.
That's interesting because is that more the feels like or the actuals? I'd assume it's feels like.
These are her actuals. Like, if this is the
Okay.
temperature, this is what you should do. And then she says the same thing about if it's windy, go down a tier. If it's raining, go down a tier. If it's rainy and windy, go down 2, basically, like compound, that's kind of up to you. If it's sunny and you're going to run really, really hard, go up a tier, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
Which
Yeah, I
also
guess
it's cold here because humidity. So maybe that's why I tend to, jump to leggings sooner than she would, because it's that real feel cold is colder.
yeah, I'm on the opposite end where when I started hearing 2 pairs, I'm like, "Oh," or even 2 shirts, I'm like, "Oh, I might
Mhm.
not have a jacket on at this point."
Yeah, but that's why it's like personal to you, and you kind
Yeah.
of learn that for yourself after trial and error. I don't know what I just said, but error. um, and then you can figure that out for yourself. But this is at least a good baseline if this is your, you just started running and this is your first experience.
For sure, you decided that you're not doing your long runs for Princess on the treadmill
Look,
if
I
you
already
wanna
ran
start getting
20 on the
outside.
treadmill. I can do anything.
True.
I don't recommend, but I can do anything.
This is true. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I have a pair of gloves. They're from Trailhead, but that's not the only brand ever
Mhm.
where they're like half glove, half mitten,
Mhm. I love
where
those.
I love mine. I got them as a Christmas gift from my father-in-law last year, and that helps me a lot with when it's not quite like I don't wanna fully take the glove off, but, like, I
Mhm.
need to, like, release because then they
Mhm.
also have, like, the thumb has, like, its own little mitten or, like, a
Yep.
little cap on it. I love mine, absolutely, and it's like that good middle ground because then they're,
Mhm.
like, fleece on the inside, that good middle ground of, like, I don't wanna fully take the glove off yet, like, I'm not ready,
Mhm.
but I can, like, release some of the heat from this.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's
I have teeny tiny baby hands, and my running gloves are a pair of Lululemon gloves because they actually are small enough for my baby hands. So, look, I tried a lot of other pairs on. Like, I tried Brooks. I tried, like, they had tons of pairs and lots of funky colors and reflective patterns and stuff at the running store a couple years ago when I got my first pair of. I have a different pair of gloves for running than I do just like cash. And
same.
um, those were the only ones that fit. I genuinely have teeny tiny baby hands.
That was the part I was laughing at was the teeny tiny baby hands.
Yeah, my hand, those like fun, like those little stick baby hands that people use in memes. Same, same.
Yeah.
Not really, but
Oh, man. Oh, man, it's too late for me to get something to play with that for marathon weekend. Yes, so know your teeny tiny baby hands or your moderately sized hands or your, you know, can, like, hold the whole puppy in your hands. Maybe you have big hands. I don't know. Um, try things on, especially as when we get out of the winter months, if you know you're gonna be running a good bit next winter, always good time to stock up on some of that gear.
when it all goes on sale.
Yeah, like I was for some Christmas stuff right out when I started seeing the 2-week forecasts of getting things like fleece blankets for
Mhm.
marathon weekend. Um, Something I think is that in this part of the world, and whenever it's your winter, you also have a lot less daylight to work with.
Mhm.
So being in reflective gear, it's now is the time to have a headlamp, lights, etc. Some of your basic runner safety, but knowing that, you know, the sun is not coming up sometimes until I'm even out of the shower from my run in the morning. Gross. But be extra cognizant of your visibility. We've both talked about how really liking our Nox gear vests for
Mhm.
visibility, especially when it's super duper dark. You are going to be the Christmas light running around. your neighborhood at 6 in the morning.
Look, just
when
turn it into
everyone's
your own personal rave. It's totally fine.
Yep, my husband calls it the rave vest. So because I always have it on the different flashing colors, because I could have it on a standalone color, but that's boring. And so it's the rave vest, where he always he's happy that I am very well visible in my little rave vest. Navigating ice and snow is always a treat. I'd say that personally, I try to play this pretty conservatively. If it's like a
Mhm.
freshly coming down snow and like we haven't had ice, I do love a good snow run. I had a path where near our apartment, Hannah's horrified, and like
I'm so scared of slipping.
when it's coming down and it's like the fluffy stuff. And I try to judge it really conservatively, but I used to have this really good path too, where it would just like, it was like a movie theater
Magical.
or like a snow globe, little like wooded trail, but like, it's like not even like a half a mile around. It was great. Where, and also I lived in the apartment then, so everything nearby was really, really well salted. So
Mhm.
I'm pretty conservative about it, especially when it's getting close to race weekend. Like I can tell you I haven't run in a couple of days because I am not trying to go again, break my neck right before dopey.
Mhm.
My tire did enough for me that I am maybe I'll get on the treadmill once. But try to find yourself a safe route, or if you're really, really, really into it, there's Yak Track is a traction device that can help you with that.
Mhm.
Personally, the juice is not worth the squeeze. To again, we're post marathon weekend when you're hearing this, so we both have Princess coming up in 6 weeks. Or maybe you have Disneyland even earlier than that, or you have springtime, which is
If
not
you
even that
sprain
many
your
weeks later.
ankle, it takes a lot longer to heal than you think it does. It is not just like a week or two of rest. Like if you truly sprain your ankle, you could be in PT for 3 months. So decide what your threshold is.
Yes. Because then there's also like black ice where it looks fine and then you slip and you eat it and then your dog looks at you like, what's wrong with you? Um, not like I'm talking from experience. My mom's puppy looked at me like, well, what are you doing? I felt judged by a like 9-pound animal, which is just pro or par for the course. But it wasn't even running with him. I was just walking him, and I thought I stepped on something that was I thought it was just a little damp and it wasn't icy. It was icy. So yeah, make sure that you're kind of evaluating your risk there and deciding what's more
Mhm.
important to you. Like, yes, does it kind of stink to do like a high mileage on the tread? It absolutely does. And it's really not my favorite thing. But you can also try to find an indoor track if you have one near you, or the treadmill. But try to find yourself a safe route. I do try to, as even over the last month when we've had some like dustings or getting into that icy territory up here, I've been trying to, even on my commute home, like kind of like pre-plan, like, okay, like what does stuff look like? I guess I'm like, or like waiting on my way to work when I'm stuck in school traffic, like looking over at the sidewalks, like what's going on? But yeah, just trying to pre-plan what you can. Um, yeah, don't break your leg to go on a training run because that would suck. First of all, and secondly, getting to the race like in one piece is more important than anything. I also, okay, I hate diet culture. I really, really strongly hate that. That's a rant for another day. But we are in January, and a lot of gyms like to like lean into the diet culture, lean into the resolutions. So make diet culture work for you. If there's a gym nearby that has like reduced their sign up fee, very low prices, a lot of them cut deals in January. So if you know you have a race coming up and like you want to really play it safe with literally your safety, but it's probably a good thing to look into. Even just do it for the month, get yourself through the training, do it for like a couple months, and then maybe if you love it, great. But if you're more of an outdoor runner like I am, you know, make diet culture work for you. Actually, make it if this were a more PG-13 rated podcast, there's a different terminology that I would use for that. But make it you can insert a word there. But yeah, just kind of try to maybe look into joining a gym temporarily, because that gets hard with the races being in the winter or the colder seasons, is just all this different weather stuff. I mean, weather is a factor 365 or 66 days a year, the entirety of the year, but there's just different weather aspects that make things more challenging, especially if you're up north.
Yeah. Speaking of safety, other than obviously you can slip and physically injure yourself more. Maybe not even more, because like you get rain in summer and stuff. It's just different. But another thing that could happen, which is the opposite of heat illness, which we talked about this summer, is you could theoretically get hypothermia or even frostbite if you're not careful with your clothing choices and your timing and such. And so I just wanted to quickly go over some of like the early signs of hypothermia, so that you can be on the lookout for your running buddies, for yourself, for anyone just, keeping it good. And for anyone who doesn't know, hypothermia is when your core body temperature drops below 95. If you listen to our Chicago episode, I'm going to never live this down and I'm going to keep hyping it up. I had hypothermia and it was in like 50 something degree weather. So it's not it's not just because it's too cold outside. You can also get it because your electrolytes are out of whack and you didn't fuel properly in a race. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. So just be on the lookout. So early signs are shivering, and it's not just like a little shivering, it's like uncontrollable, you can't stop shivering, confusion or disorientation. This one is honestly, I think we tend to write this one off a lot, especially when we're tired from running. We say, "Oh, I'm just exhausted. Oh, I've just been running for a long time, like my brain's checked out or whatever." But be very cognizant of like your mental state when you're running. There's a difference between being tired and like being confused and disoriented. Like in Chicago, sure, I was tired around the halfway mark, but by mile like in the 20s, I was struggling to like stay focused on anything, and like my vision got a little bit blurry, which will that one's later down the list, but just keep in mind. There's also slurred speech, so it could be similar to, if you were drinking, if you're an adult and you partake. Slowed movements, so this was also something that I experienced when I had it. Fatigue, obviously you're already going to be tired, so it's going to take that to another level. And then numbness in your fingers, toes, face. When I knew something was like seriously wrong, I was already in the medical tent for my ankle at Chicago. I could tell that my disorientation had gone to a new level, because I was like, vision was losing focus and I just like felt not in my body anymore. But also my face and my teeth started going numb and like tingling. So that's a good one to look out for. But just dress appropriately, drink all your electrolytes, fuel well in your race. We all want everyone to be happy and healthy. Hopefully I didn't scare the crap out of everyone.
If your Chicago experience didn't, then
fair.
I'm not sure that what will.
Yeah.
I guess we've talked a lot about kind of keeping your body in one way and keeping that safe, but let's kind of transition into talking a little bit about your mind. I'm not gonna lie, it's tough to get out there in the winter and get up, and this is hibernation season. If I were a bear, I would just be sleeping. So
your body is literally trying to protect you, to be like, no, don't do it.
What are you doing?
Why?
So the mind asks that too. So especially as we're coming out of Dopey, as well if you were doing them, if you were doing marathon weekend, and no matter what race you did and accomplished this weekend, it's hard to not fall into, okay, now what? I personally, and I'm curious to see how this goes for how this is for Hannah, but I
Mhm.
personally am very invigorated from marathon weekend going into Princess, where get such a burst of energy where I, knock on wood, don't usually get like the dopey downers. I usually am like, yes, I can't wait to do this again so soon. Okay. Some people really can't, versus usually when I've done the marathon to Princess to springtime, usually after Princess into springtime, I'm like, I can't move. I'm out. I can't do it.
Mhm.
Um, like, or I'll come home with a lot of energy and then it just kind of falls apart.
Mhm.
So keeping a good mindset, you kind of just have to embrace the suck of winter running. Whether that is like, you know, going outside and realizing that it's already like you're already all, not tingly, but like just when the wind hits your face, the air hits your face, you're like,
Mhm.
ugh. Or you can also kind of treat it as a little bit of an adventure where I try not to
Mhm.
hold myself accountable to how I run, a perfect 53-degree day. I try not to hold myself accountable to that during the winter. It's just like, all right, we got a day without snow and ice. Let's go, baby.
Mhm.
So trying to kind of build your resilience,
Mhm.
and just it's an opportunity for that. But there's sucky parts of it.
Mhm.
So it's okay to accept that. But
I
I
like to
think,
kind of flip the script a little bit and I mean,
ooh,
there's nothing wrong with being, like, a pragmatic, realistic, like, "I don't like the cold, so this is gonna suck." That's fine. But, I find it, like, each season has its own unique things that are fun and enjoyable. Like, you talked about going out when the snow is just freshly coming down and it feels magical and like a snow globe. I
mhm,
think it's fun to sort of flip it, right, and think about how you can make it into a venture, think how you
yeah,
can make it enjoyable and fun, and say like, "Oh, I like that brisk feeling because in summer, I'm gonna feel like I'm in a sauna." And
true,
when it's, picking up a quick wind or it's, like, bright and when, if we're going a little bit back to fall, when the leaves come down, like, there's just something special about each season, and I like to try and think about those things, at least to
yeah,
get me out the door to get started.
true.
Um, and I find that to be really enjoyable because, like, for some people, winter might be their favorite season to run.
I bet if you live in Florida, this is probably your best. This is your ideal season to
I
be running
like
in.
yeah, because we don't get, like obviously, I'm not all the way in Florida, I'm in Georgia, but I do genuinely, like, really enjoy running in the winter here. The sunlight thing, that still gets me, but just the fact that, like, our quote unquote "winter" is closer to, like it's still cold, but, like, it's the best running weather we have here temperature-wise. I really enjoy getting out there if I can when it's not I don't really love running in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Like kind of embracing. I do love the time in the season when I switch between shirts where it's like, "Ooh, it's time to, like, unlock my winter shirts because it got colder." And when I trained for my first dopey, I had I did end up duplicating some shirts sometimes, but I was trying to go on a streak because I always take, like, a picture after my runs, and then I'll make a compilation of all the training runs. But I tried to not duplicate a shirt, and I made it pretty far
Dang.
before I didn't duplicate a shirt, and this is, like, my entirety of my catalog, like, not just Run Disney shirts, like, the full catalog, including, like, everything.
That's
So,
wild because I had to go and buy another long sleeve shirt in order to have enough cold weather options for Dopey.
well, you're gonna have you have 6 more now, whee!
Yep.
'Cause that's, like, I love adding that to because then I keep all my Run Disney shirts in, like, rainbow order, which I am gesturing to Hannah in my
Mhm.
closet, because nothing makes me happier than looking at my whole rainbow of my shirts, and right now, I have the mix between my short and long sleeve, like, we're going full reds to, through the whole rainbow. Eventually, I think I'll get to the point where I can, like, have my, like, long sleeve rainbow, my short sleeve rainbow, and my tank top. We're probably not gonna get that far with the tank tops, but those are in like rainbow color as they will be. Okay, it
Mm.
makes me happy. But anyway, but it's kind of nice. It's fun for me to like again, I unlock or like my my leggings are a
Mhm.
little bit more fun colored in the winter because I just have some more fun colors. I'm like, oh, I
And
can wear these.
visibility.
True. It's like, oh, I can wear these like pink ones that I don't wear too often. I have these purple ones that I don't wear too often. And
Mhm.
it's kind of nice to like, again, I unlock my winter clothes
Mhm.
and especially when it's like I know I'm getting low on my shirts. I've kind of gone away from that just because with strength training days, I'm like, well, that also gets added to the compilation, but like it's not a run. So I've gotten away from that a little bit, but it's like, ooh, I get to like unlock like what's my next shirt, or or like that those like tweener days and whatnot. So I think it's kind of fun, and then also like I look forward to
Mhm.
reintroducing the short sleeve shirts for my outdoor runs, or even underneath my jacket.
Mhm.
It's kind of something that I know I'm like, oh, that's exciting, and like I am feeling like it's a Moana day. Okay, like it's always a Moana day, but like I'm feeling like it's a Moana day, and I have plenty of Moana shirts to choose from.
Yeah.
So there's different things with your mindset. I like that. The positive attitude of, again, like as Carissa Galloway says all the time, we get to do this.
Mhm.
So I think trying to apply that to your training runs as well is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think along those lines, like, I have my accountability groups. I've got you, I've got people that also help me, like, keep going. I like running with others, so if I go to, like, a group run or if I run with Ben, like, that also helps make it more enjoyable. You don't This is the same in winter or summer, but, like, I don't think you notice the weather as much when you have distractions, and people are the best distractions. Um,
True.
I totally ran way, way, way too fast months ago when we were doing, I think it was the 15, and we ran with that guy on the trail who was doing his 20 for New York, and he was struggling, and we were keeping our intervals, but we ended up running faster than we had when he joined up with us, but none of us noticed, and we were having so much more fun and felt better. But I think it's the same way with the cold, like, you don't notice how much you're cold or, like, if something's a little uncomfortable because if you get a good conversation going, then you don't you're not thinking about that.
Yeah, I can't
Natalie
really
doesn't
blame.
relate. She runs by herself all the time.
I know. But I mean, I do try to do what I can with distractions where I save myself like a podcast
Mhm.
episode for a run, or that I was like, I'll like go to click play on my commute. I'm like, no, I'm saving that for a run. I'm saving that for a run. But yeah, doing what you can to keep yourself distracted to the point you can, or I don't know. I try to spin like the suck into like something positive of like, well, at least it's not windier.
Mhm.
Like it could be
Yeah.
worse. Because again, it's a gift. Like, yes, this is windy and cold, but guess what? It's not icy. I'm not
Mhm.
doing this, So I
Do you
think that
ever incentivize yourself for when you get home? Like, if I go out and do this, then when I get home, I can have hot chocolate?
I think sometimes
And
I do
and I
think
wanna
of
be
the gift.
clear that I do not mean this in, like, since we just said diet culture, I do not mean it in a, like, I couldn't have the hot chocolate anyways. I just mean it in, like, a, it'll be warm
It'll
kind of
be
thing.
waiting for
It'll be
me at
waiting for
home.
me and it'll be warm. I could have the hot chocolate anyways, but, like, sometimes I'm like, "This reward will be waiting." Sometimes I mix my protein shake with the hot chocolate. That's fun.
Ooh, ooh, that is fun.
Warm and protein.
Sometimes, or I'll make, oh, like the bath later. It's gonna feel so
Yeah.
good, like the nice warm. Or I got Disney Dreamlight Valley for Christmas, and no thoughts, only Disney Dreamlight Valley. And I haven't done a long run since we did it.
Mhm.
Not related, but or since I got it. But I guess that is kind of something going forward for the rest of this winter I can think of. I'm like, oh, you can just sit on the couch and play your little
Yes.
game. And again, like I would do it anyway, but it's like, oh, you have that to look forward to when you get
Mhm.
home.
Ben and I do that with
Or
movies because we really like to get, like, cozy on the couch, get under a big blanket, and watch, like, a movie or a show or something, and we do that as most of the routine, but there's something about when you've, like, accomplished other things in the day by going to your run, meal prepping, like whatever other tasks you have to get done, we like to try and get those done early in the day. And then there's this like extra sense of relief and like calm that comes from doing those activities when everything's like off your plate.
It's almost like also looking forward to like TV time like after work, right? Or it's like, oh, it's Grace time. My husband and I, well, because of Disney Dreamlight Valley, we've been taking a little break from Grace. But because he's very entertained watching me play. And like he'll play his game on his laptop, but he'll just kind of watch. And especially because the writing is great. It's really funny. Like some of the stuff that's like is so subtle. Like Donald Duck was like an alien conspiracy theory for a little while, except it was actually an alien stealing and chewing his socks because that's how they introduced Stitch. So funny.
No.
So funny. Oh my god, Stitch is so cute. Anyway, but before I turn this into a Disney Dreamlight Valley, we'll table that. But it's just little like treat, like a little like, you know, and like even if it's something that you would have anyway, like you can look at it as a treat. Like, ooh, like whatever you got to do to keep yourself motivated and like incentivized, and you know, and that goes for the summer too. Like your shower feels so good. Like certain showers hit different. And like when you're disgustingly sweaty, like that one hits so different. Or like you like shampoo your hair and like you can feel like the grease and like the sweat leaving. Oh, it just feels good. It feels so good.
Yeah. I
So,
like
you
a
know,
cold shower in the summer, but in the winter I like, look, it's not good for my skin, but I really enjoy like a really hot shower, even if I was sweaty, because that like release in your muscles just feels so
oh,
good.
feel like a lizard shedding its skin. I'd say that something that's kind of important, not kind of, but definitely is flexibility.
In many more ways than one.
For sure. You got to know when to call it
Mhm.
and when to, you know. The first runs I did during marathon training were late December on the tread. I knew it was time to call it. And I knew that it just wasn't it, right? So you, especially if you're like me and you don't really love the treadmill and yada yada yada, or you just, it's not even like, because I appreciate the treadmill for what it is, and obviously being a way to run, because personally I feel like indoor tracks kind of mess me up a little more, because especially if they're short. They're like, you know, say they're a tenth of a mile and like, you know, 10
Oh my
laps to a
god, so
mile,
many laps.
and then you have, but you also can't run the other way. At least the one in my hometown that I've run on. So like it kind of messes it, like for, I know that the one time I did a longer run on it, kind of like messed up my hips a little bit,
Mhm.
just because I was always turning. I could not then go counterclockwise
Mhm.
because it was the day you could only go clockwise that day on the track. So, but yeah, what I'm saying is that, you know, just know when to be flexible and to call it. And then like now is a pretty good time. Say that marathon weekend was the end of your season and you don't really have anything on the docket for a while. Now is a pretty good time for cross training or all those things that you go, oh no, I can't. I'm marathon training, or I'm 5K training, or I'm training for marathon weekend. Like I keep saying I'm going to go to like a cycle class or like cycle bar or something like that. And then I never do because I'm in some version of a marathon training block. So again, that's something else that usually like stuff like Orange Theory, like they'll have some kind of deal for January. So it's a good time to also kind of get in some different cross training, doing the movement that you can, and just kind of base building for your next, you know, big running accomplishment. So be flexible, try some new things. If you're still running though, if you still have like a marathon, like I'm not going to tell you to go like uh go like not, but it's a good time to just kind of you know, spread your wings a little, find another version of cardio that you enjoy, or if you don't, then I don't know, give yourself a little break. I guess last little piece on here that I have is focusing on your form, and your form when it's like snowy out. Like I definitely feel like I'm almost like head in my, and I'm not
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
looking down like
Chin
that,
tucked
but
because you're staring at the ground, afraid you're gonna step on something.
yes, usually if I'm that afraid, I'm not outside. But what I try to do is, focusing, like definitely running slower. Those
Mhm.
snow runs, I think that's something that also I really enjoy about it. It's that it's like, well, it's snowy out. I just take it real slow and relaxed. And it's, again, I'm just literally enjoying like the snow globy atmosphere. Um, but yeah, you're not doing your best speed workout, your best fartlek ever when it's like
Mhm.
snowy and icy out. So just kind of watch your footing, try to improve your gait on uneven surfaces. Again, know when to call it for sure. Um, you don't want to sacrifice months and months of hard work on your
Mhm.
training for one like really dope speed workout.
Mhm.
Because if you break your foot, that's gonna not go well
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, it's a good time cuz like it's a good time like you said to focus on different aspects of your running. I'm not saying you shouldn't always be thinking about your form and your stride and all those things, but if you have to run slower, then it gives you an even more reason to think of those things. You actually inherently, when we run faster, your body tends to fix your form anyways because you need to be in top form to run faster. But when you run slower, it gives you that time to like do that check in and really think about it so that you're doing it all the time. So just set some new goals.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the new year. Might as well.
Yeah, that is true. You know, kind of embrace it.
Hmm.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, just good luck and enjoy the ride.
Hmm.
Can't believe the month is half over by this point.
Yeah. Crazy.
Time flies. It's the dopey bubble of usually it's like, because usually January drags. It
Hmm.
just drags on and probably will after this. But knowing that we're, already halfway there, it's just insane. It's a little crazy.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this episode and we hope that you stick around because next week we're recapping marathon. Yee!
Oh man. I can only imagine what's in store.
All right, it's review time. So, Natalie and I both had been in the Cocoa bubble for a few weeks leading up to the holidays, and we did not get a chance to read this one yet. This is a 2024 review, but we just wanted to say thank you so much, and we don't want you to think we forgot about you. This review is from Grayson, and it's titled "Favorite Podcast for Training." This podcast has been so fun to listen to during my training runs. I appreciate how interactive the Stride Sisters are on social media as well. See y'all at Princess 2025. We will see you at Princess in 2025, Grayson. We're so excited. We are contemplating, it is not set in stone. I think you asked us once upon a time if we would consider a meetup, and we are contemplating a possibility for Princess. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. Thanks so much for listening.
Yes. And we love interacting with you too. So
Mhm.
we talk about it like, oh, like who's gonna answer it
Yeah.
between me and Hannah. I try to label it when it's me.
Yes. And if you've ever wanted to message us or, we talk about in the sign off all the time that we want to spotlight you guys in our community on like a community spotlight. We just had a big race. We have another big race coming up. So if you want to send us a photo, you're going to hear it in the sign off again, but we really do want to spotlight you guys and we love you guys so much and thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Yes. It's been a joy and an honor to go through this adventure as one big old group. So, if you enjoyed listening to our show, please leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We love reading your reviews out loud, and you might even be featured on a future podcast episode. We've also started a community spotlight on our Instagram at Stride Sisters Podcast. If you want to be featured for a Medal Monday, Finish Line Friday, or any accomplishment you'd like to celebrate, send us a picture via our social media platforms or our email. All the ways to connect with us can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Until our next adventure, we're wishing you endless miles of magic and memories. See you next time.